And throughout the trial, the client's going like this, and during a break, the jury's not there. He stands up and he says, "Look, I didn't tell you how to kill your wife. You don't tell me how to do my job."
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. Who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And who is he? Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer. And what he do? And he's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, your very own personal board-certified criminal defense lawyer. You know who you are. Today we are reacting to just kind of an update on the Trump trial. But before we get to that, Michael and I are back from the grand affair that we went to in Portugal. George and Lauren, just want to thank you so much for being your guests. And it was just an amazing, if you ever get a chance to go to Portugal, I highly recommend it. Just had an amazing time. And just so you know, it just really warms my heart when we reach out to the fans and we went to this amazing wedding with just amazing food and amazing people. We sat with Lauren's people who are from Wisconsin and Chicago. And so I just really want to appreciate or send a message to let you know we appreciate the invite. And, it's not something we can do all the time, but just an amazing time. Let's talk about Trump. And Trump is facing a criminal trial. And, in a criminal trial, just like my grandma, in her basement, she's awaiting, you've heard about all the shenanigans that grandma has been awaiting her trials. And one of the things I've had to do is I've had to take control of grandma's, she had a competency hearing. Can't really stand trial when you're not competent. So what do you have to do? You got to get a power of attorney. Where would you get a power of attorney? From eForms.com. eForms.com, very effective way to avoid high-priced lawyers and keep yourself out of court. Because if you need a bill of sale or power of attorney, or if your grandma's stuck in the basement awaiting trial on something that she shouldn't have done, you go to eForms.com. eForms.com, very effective way to avoid the courtroom and avoid guys like me. Okay, so where are we at with Trump? I think we're in, week 3 or so of the trial. And Trump is down. He was sanctioned by the court for violating the gag order. Now, a gag order is a tool that the court uses, especially in high-profile cases, to avoid the improper use of language outside the courtroom. In other words, to curb people's speech so that they don't influence either the jury pool or, affect somehow the administration of justice. You have the right of free speech. You have a First Amendment right, but not an unmitigated right to free speech. You don't have the right to yell fire in a crowded theater, for example. Well, you don't have the right to taint the legal process. And a judge has the right and has the power to curb your speech. And so what Trump has done, according to the court, he's violated it 9 times. And he was sanctioned the maximum penalty on each one of those, which is $1,000 each. So $9,000. Well, he was in court again today after being alleged to have violated the conditions of that gag order. Now, the judge he's made statements to Trump like, "You are a former president of the United States, possibly could be the next president of the United States. Jailing you is the absolute last thing I want to do. It's the last resort, because it's going to have implications no matter what he does." But he's not getting it. The judge is being very cautious about how to proceed. And, Trump says he's violating his First Amendment rights by, limiting his speech through the gag order, that it's election interference because he's not allowed to attend some rallies during the trial. Well, let me just tell you something. When you are on the hook for 34 felonies, the court can tell you where to go and what to do. It's the same process for anybody. For anybody. If you don't show up to court, you get a warrant, and then you get charged with bail jumping. It's a fact. That's just what happens. He's going to continue to push this judge. Today, his comptroller is testifying. Really boring testimony. He's subpoenaed. He's represented by Trump lawyers, and probably doesn't want to be there. But why is his testimony important? It's been important because he knows what documents are what. And he is able to substantiate what documents are this. He's able to substantiate which pot of money that came out of here. And he's able to tell you, and he's got to tell the truth. Because if he lies, it's perjury, right? Well, we also heard from Hope Hicks, who gave some color on what was going on at the time. You're going to hear in the future, I think, from Michael Cohen. And Michael Cohen's going to probably be one of the last witnesses to testify. He does have some credibility problems, but nothing that a good document can't uphold. The other thing they heard today was the recording of Trump and Michael Cohen. They heard that secret recording today. And if you look at the things Trump is saying outside the courtroom, notice none of it has anything to do with the substantive facts. He makes a statement about the jury being packed with Democrats. They had the full, fair opportunity to vet all the jurors, right? And so that's one of the things that the judge is looking at, because he goes on these news channels, these kind of offbeat news channels, and he says shit that's not true. Stuff that you can't talk about, and that he's not supposed to talk about because of the gag order. Now, anybody else, if this was anybody else in the same circumstance, they would have been jailed already. Also, wranglings about, some fighting amongst the Trump lawyers. He's not really happy with haba, and he's not really happy with his current lawyer, and he's like tugging on people's shirts and trying to get them to stand up and argue shit that, one of the problems that you have when you have the lawyer is responsible for strategy and all the questioning and what happens in court. The client has two main responsibilities: whether you're going to testify and whether or not you settle the case. Those are the two areas that are exclusively within the domain of the client. When you have a client that sits there and just trying to tell you what to do, it makes it almost impossible to represent them. I don't know if Blanche is angling for the top job at the Justice Department if Trump gets elected. I don't know what his ultimate goals are. But, it reminds me of a story of an older lawyer that was one of the best lawyers in Minnesota, named Doug Thompson. He was trying a murder case. And throughout the trial, the client's going like this, and during a break, the jury's not there. He stands up and he says, "Look, I didn't tell you how to kill your wife. You don't tell me how to do my job." And so you almost want to get up and say something like that to Trump, because it's like unbelievable, because you can't focus. You know where you're supposed to go. You know how, what the law is. And he wants you to say shit that you probably can't say or that you shouldn't say, because it'll have, especially if it's in front of the jury. So one of the things about a white collar case, and this is a white collar case. They call it, like business cases, white collar cases. And, it's a lot of boring stuff. But you have to get it in. So like, the jury was shown a check for $70,000 covering January and February payments from the trust account to Michael Cohen. And the check had two signatures. It had Eric Trump's signature and Alan Weisselberg's. Now, Alan Weisselberg, remember, he testified in another case, and he wound up going to jail for perjury. He was responsible for some tax stuff, and he got a sentence on that. And then when called to testify in another case, so revolving Trump and all this tax fraud, he lied, and he got 5 months on that. So he's gotten, I think, about 11 months in jail. And one of the things, that's why this controller that was testifying, he's able to verify signatures, verify documents, lay foundation for the admission of certain evidence. It's slow, it's methodical, but you have to do it. And it's not sexy, it's boring, actually. It's and who signed this, and what was, you had that account, and who was the signature on that account, and below a certain dollar amount was this, and then you're going to have Michael Cohen come in and wrap all this up. And you watch, they're going to go after Michael Cohen very hard. And Michael Cohen's just going to sit there. He's not going to have an attitude with anybody. You watch. He's going to be very resolute. He's going to be matter of fact, and he's going to say, "Yep, I did lie," and he's going to say, but keep in mind, he worked for Trump for 10 years. He went to prison for something he did for Trump. 36 months is what he got in federal prison. Why the feds chose not to go after Trump, I don't know. But this is not rocket science. It really isn't. It just, and like all cases, it comes down to just one or two things. Is this going to come down to a situation where you believe that Donald Trump did this to hide it from his wife? Or is it going to come down that he did this to hide it from the American public in furtherance of his election bid? That's really what it comes down to. Because there's no question that he caused these documents to be filed. No question about it. Nothing happens in the Trump organization without Trump knowing about it. And the culture, a lot of this testimony is also about the culture of this company. And that's what happens in these kind of organizations, because there's a lot of secrets, there's this and that. And you're going to see that Michael Cohen is going to wrap all this stuff up into a nice, neat little package after all these other people have laid the foundation. And they're unassailable. David Pecker, they didn't touch him. His testimony is unassailable. And Hope Hicks, she didn't want to be there. She was crying during her testimony. Deborah Tarasoff, she's an accountant for Trump. She testified that, how Trump signs his checks with a black Sharpie. Everybody's seen his signature, right? And he signed his name with and he would mail the checks back to the White House. If he didn't want to sign a check, he would write void on it and send it back. And so one of the reasons why her testimony is important is because she authenticated his signature. And how did she know it was his signature? Because that's the way he signs it, with a black Sharpie. Little details like that lend credibility to the person who's talking. What is the context in which they're testifying? They're testifying about their capacity as somebody who worked for Donald Trump as an accountant. And I used to have him sign checks all the time. And this is how he signed them. That sure looks like his signature. So one of the things that the state has to do, or the prosecutor has to do in this case, is the DA has got to establish foundation for each piece of evidence. And that is what they're doing with the signatures, with the kinds of checks that they are, and and the culture of how payments are made. It's really boring stuff, honestly, when it comes down to it. It's like, who cares? But it's so important, because without it, you don't get the information in. You don't get the piece of evidence that you need in. So the big bang in this is going to be Michael Cohen. And I wish to God I had seats for this, because it would be a fun cross-examination to watch. I don't think it's going to be incredibly effective. I think it's just going to be a lot of name calling, and he's going to yell, and this will be, you mark my words, this is going to be a time where Trump and his lawyers, he's going to hate the job that his lawyer. That's what's going to happen between Trump and his lawyer. The wheels are going to come off their cart at that time. And here's the other thing that's been talked about a little bit. A lot of people have been talking about Trump and all the antics and possibly a mistrial because of all the shit that he's doing. Well, there's a thing called the invited error doctrine. You can't invite your own error and ask for a mistrial unless it's really, really bad. But you can invite your own error and have it used against you. So I don't think there's any danger that there's going to be a mistrial caused by Trump's team. I just don't see it. I don't think this judge is going to go for that at all. He'll sanction him, but it won't be a mistrial. And I don't even think it's good enough for an appellate record, honestly. So we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. This has been our update about the Trump trial. And a little dry, but it's important because, the next phase of this, they're kind of going to, it's 3 weeks in. I can't imagine they've got a lot more witnesses. But another week or two, and then we'll start with closing statements, and then the jury will get the case. So we'll see what happens. See you next time here at Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers with our content genius behind the camera, Michael Rivers. And make sure you subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, sign up for Patreon. We'll see you next time on Criminal Lawyer Reacts. And just a quick message to all of our Patreon members. The hats are on their way. We've had such overwhelming response, we had to order more. So if you haven't gotten your hat yet, it's on its way. I'm part of
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away.
23-hour lockdown, please, is that my God?